Hello, everyone out there in Radio Land. It's once again that time of the week. What time of the week is it? It's that time of the week where we peel back all of that corporate propaganda. We dig underneath the headlines. We give you a deft lefty analysis at the international, national, statewide, and local level right here in our dear backyard. And quite generally, we call out the establishment on its BS. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. Now, as always, the following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 FM, WIDR Kalamazoo, or Western Michigan University, no matter how dope or insightful they may turn out to be. Joined today by recurring co-host Lawrence. Say hello to the people at home. Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you testing?
Now we can hear you. Okay.
Right, testing 1, 2. What up, though? What up, everybody?
Yeah. So, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're going to update you the latest from Bolivia, the most recent the coup stuff. We've got some stories coming out. All this impeachment stuff's going on. The Patriot Act got reauthorized. So, congratulations, everyone. We're still living in a surveillance state. Hooray.
Hooray.
Yeah. It's very good for the spy industry. And Also, we'll talk a bit about there's some teachers on strike down in Indiana. We're going to talk a little bit about some issues involving don't be getting your Chick-fil-A sandwiches just yet. Also, talk a little bit about what's been going on with Colin Kaepernick and some good news here in the state for our transgender folks. And also,
Tommy Heasy-Coast had a very good conversation that I think that we definitely need to talk about. And Chick-fil-A has been people ain't going to Chick-fil-A because they've been waiting in line for the Popeye sandwiches. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So that's a free market.
You know what I'm saying?
Right there, yeah.
I haven't had the Popeye sandwich yet, but I'm planning on getting it. After we talk about tonight, I might get one right before the debates tonight because it's going down in the ATL.
Yeah, how many are we gonna have on the stage this evening?
We're gonna have 10 on the stage. Let me rail them off on who's gonna be on the stage. So we have Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Mayor Pete, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard, and Tom Steyer. Steyer. How do you say that man's last name?
Steyer. I think it's Steyer.
Steyer. Okay, cool. So Julian Castro didn't make it. Beto O'Rourke dropped out. R.I.P. Beto O'Rourke. Yeah. I don't think he's gonna have. I think he kind of ruined his chances of maybe being a senator again.
Yeah, man. He did not understand the cards that he was dealt, and kind of overestimated his own cultural cache, if we will. Cache. CACHE.
Well, the problem with Beto is that Beto had before when he almost beat Ted Cruz, he had a organic grassroots support, and he was a bit of a populist. If you look at the demographics in California, populism works. On either populism works.
In Texas?
Yeah, in Texas. And now populism works either to the left or on the right, but populism does work. The problem is that when he started running nationally, he started getting Obama consultants, and you started to see that pivot of him becoming much more centrist, and also of his centrist policies and the ways that he was looking at going about being president, not really having a a truly organic or a unique thing that he wanted to talk about. He went really far to the left when it came to guns, which is a stance that a lot of people, especially in Texas, is not going to stand for, even though we might stand for it and agree with it that we do need an assault weapons ban. He was talking about a mandatory buyback, and which was the problem. I think the main issue is that with Beto, if he would have stuck with his, I'm progressive. I may not be as far progressive as Bernie, but I'm progressive nonetheless. And I want these same things. You know what I'm saying? And he would have stuck with that. I'm in the progressive lane. He might have been able to stay in this race. But you saw what happens when it comes to Obama consultants. Also, which is one of the things that we need to talk about. President Obama coming out and concern trolling, saying that we're going too far to the left. Again,
too far to the left.
That's another conversation which we're gonna have after this. But anyway, but for the 10 people who's gonna be on this stage, I'm expecting we have a solidified 4. Biden, Warren, Bernie, Buttigieg. That's the solidified 4. If you want to throw Kamala or Yang in as number 5, that's legitimate, because Yang definitely has been pulling a lot of support. Kamala's been falling. You could even throw Tulsi in there, because Tulsi's been getting a lot of cross party line support,
especially independents seem to really like Tulsi Gabbard, which isn't really surprising if you understand like a lot of that constituency and base. She's really speaking to a lot of those issues, calling out corruption in her own political party, which again most of the people up there, even Bernie, really isn't doing, at least not explicitly.
No, Bernie's I disagree on that, because his policy platform about getting money out of politics, that calls out his party. And you saw.
I guess it's a little different, because like Tulsi is more. I know. Apt to, like, name names.
Tulsi's bringing a shotgun to this fight. like Tulsi's coming in like a battle rapper, talking about bigger 9. You know what I'm saying? Like shout out to all my fans. Shout out to all the people who like battle rap the way I do, and we'll catch that reference. But I expect at this debate, I'm expecting Tulsi to go after Buttigieg, because Buttigieg is trying to outform policy her on what we should do, but he's doing it from a right-wing perspective. I'm expecting,
because we're starting to see Joe Biden's numbers fall. Do you think they're like? Do you think Pete Buttigieg is kind of pulling from that? Do you think it's like a kind of a situation where it's like, well, our top-tier centrist, it looks like the engine's going kind of rusty. Do we need someone younger?
Well, that's what
policy.
Well, that's what the establishment wants. But when you look at the actual polling, the people that Pete Buttigieg is pulling from, it's actually Warren, because it's white, affluent supporters that are. When we look at the polling and how they break it down, it's usually people who makes over 75K, 75 to 80K a year. And they're usually college graduates or post-college grads that support Warren and Buttigieg. But when you look at when you look at the, like, in the different polling, I think it was Real Clear Politics or Pew Poll Research did it recently of whose people's number 2s are. Joe Biden's supporters' number 2 is Bernie. Elizabeth Warren's number 2 is Bernie. Bernie's number 2, when it comes to Bernie supporters, their number 2 is Warren. Pete Buttigieg is a lot of times Pete Buttigieg's supporters is their number 2 candidate is between Warren and Sanders. Yeah. So the thing is that the establishment wants another person that they can run, that can give you that change on the outside, continuity on the inside type of person, which is what Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg, and I have to say Warren a little bit now, and I want to also get to that story too about her Medicare for all layout, which is kind of ugly. It's kind of ugly. But the other thing is that this is the reason why you saw Bloomberg getting erased, Deval Patrick getting erased. We talked about it on this show before. The establishment sees that especially in South Carolina. This is the reason why they say the primary really doesn't start. And when you listen to mainstream media, they don't say the primary starts when New Hampshire votes. They're not saying the primary really starts when Nevada, New Hampshire, or Iowa votes. And right now, Mayor Pete's leading in Iowa. They're not saying that. They're saying South Carolina, where an overwhelming majority of black voters are gonna go to. And black voters don't like Mayor Pete. No. There are older black voters that like Joe, but there's a lot. But middle to younger age black supporters support Sanders. So the thing is, they need another person that can challenge that. The problem is that Bloomberg and Patrick are gonna pull from Biden and Warren.
Yeah,
they're not gonna pull from Sanders. They're going to pull from Biden and Warren, which is the problem. And what I suspect. This is what I suspect. I suspect that you're gonna see Andrew Yang come out and talk about universal basic income like he always does. You're going to see Tulsi talk about foreign policy, which she always does. You're going to see Tulsi try to kneecap somebody, which is going to be hilarious. I suspect that kneecapping will be Mayor Pete and Warren. But Bernie is going to be Bernie, and that means he's going to talk about nothing but policy. And he's going to talk about how he will get it through by having a political revolution. And then people are going to try to attack Bernie and Warren. And Bernie is going to be like, what is this? Get this out here. Yeah. What is this? Get that down. What'd you say? Get that down. Because Bernie doesn't attack people. Bernie does not attack people unless he's being attacked. And when he gets attacked, then he's going to be like, all right, guys. Look, I need y'all to calm that down. And I'm hoping, and this is my hope, I hope Bernie gets aggressive. And he does, I hope that he goes after Mayor Pete and talk about Mayor, because when he talks about corruption, he's like, Mayor Pete, we talk about corruption, you were influenced by your donors in South Bend and by racist police officers to fire the first black police chief, and then you fired the whistleblower who brought it to light. And you did that for thousands of dollars to win your mayoral seat. I would hate for you to be president and see what Aetna and Stryker and Blue Cross Blue Shield, when they're throwing money at you. And are you going to betray the American people like you betrayed the black people in South Bend because of the donors that's giving you money? I would hate to see how you buck that trend, because your past shows that you're not. Yeah. That's why black people don't like you now. Mm-hmm. I don't think Bernie's gonna say that, but I wish. I'm hoping somebody on stage says that to Mayor Pete.
Mm-hmm. Hey, maybe Kamala.
Kamala could, but Kamala has her own problems. I'm surprised that Klobuchar is only around because the mainstream media still likes her, but other than that, she
was endorsed by climate activist Jane Fonda recently, which was odd, but I think that just goes to show there's a very, and don't get me wrong, I love the Jane Fondas and the Ted Dansons and all the other celebrities who come out and talk about these issues, but they definitely have a disconnection about how power functions. And because Amy Klobuchar certainly isn't going to be going in there prioritizing the Green New Deal.
Doug, I would challenge anybody to explain 3 policies that Amy Klobuchar is actually for. I would love to hear somebody try to explain what are 3 things she's actually for that the American people support. Seriously. Yeah. And also, Tom Steyer. I need Tulsi to come through on Tom Steyer talking about Bigger 9, because I don't know if you saw the story. I think I put it in our messenger of Tom Steyer being caught trying to buy people's endorsements.
Oh no, I don't think I saw that.
Dog. Okay, so let me pull up the article real quick. Let me pull up this article real quick. Okay. So we talk about corruption. We talk about money and politics on this show all the time. I don't think there's an episode that's gone by where we haven't talked about money and politics.
It's one of our least favorite topics.
Oh man,
so omnipresent.
Oh man, so bro, let me read this article from you from let me see if where I'm finding this article. It's Associated Press. Tom Steyer. This is from the Associated Press. This is from what date is this? November 11th, right? Kyle Kalinske, shout out to Kyle Kalinske and Secular Talk. They broke it down. Top aides to Democratic presidential candidate Tom Steyer in Iowa privately offered campaign contributions to local politicians in exchange for their endorsement for his White House bid, according to multiple people with direct knowledge of said conversations. We have literally talked about billionaires buying politicians and buying support from politicians. Tom Steyer literally did as he campaigns that he is an anti-corruption candidate.
Oh boy.
Think about it.
It reminds me too recently, and there's more subtle forms of this. A lot of people were making a lot of the Working Families Party endorsement, which functionally they really don't have much influence outside of New York, but I mean that's a whole discussion in itself. But a lot of people got up in arms because they endorsed Warren over Bernie Sanders. Found out later is that I can't remember if it was Elizabeth Warren's daughter or niece, somebody in her immediate family, apparently is a part of the Working Families Party, made some substantial donations right before the announcement. I'm like, the whole legalized bribery thing is very present, and even in certain candidates that you actually like.
Dog, it goes back to what this is why. Again, we also got to talk about this on the show later today. Talk about Cenk Uygur and his bid, and it goes back to that idea of what is a campaign contribution by millionaires and billionaires and by corporations. It's a bribe. What is it a bribe for? It's a bribe so they can get political influence over their desired topic. In Tom Steyer's case, it's his desired topic is for him to become the president of the United States. So
I'm thinking this might be a good segue for, it's a related topic, and especially when you're talking about Pete Buttigieg kind of running as progressive but probably will govern from the center. Let's talk a little bit about former President Barack Obama. He recently said.
All right, hold on a second. Before we get to that, I want everybody to know MSNBC is going to ask garbage questions. They're going to ask because it's recently been shown, which is another story that we need to talk about, as MSNBC has either not talked about Bernie as much as he talked about everyone else in the race, or when they do cover Bernie, it's negative, which is another story that's come out from Media Matters, which we also need to talk about. But here's a drinking game. If they actually ask a question about climate change, drink a six-pack, because they have not. No.
Also, this show does not promote heavy drinking.
No. This show does not promote heavy drinking. But here's a drinking game. Here's a drinking game. Take a shot every time they ask a progressive how are they going to pay for Medicare for all. Take a drink.
Lawrence, we're not trying to kill people here.
No. I was just saying. This is going to be a fun drinking game. Take a shot every time they ask a progressive how they going to pay for Medicare for all. Take a shot every time Rachel Maddow asks us about impeachment, which they all agree on. Take a shot every time they
take a double shot of vodka every time she asks about Russia.
Oh my God, Doc! Take a shot every. Okay. Take a shot every time they downplay the actual progressive policies from Warren and Sanders, or they go after Warren and Sanders for making billionaires cry recently, which is another story we need to talk about. Billionaires crying about a wealth tax.
Oh no, poor me. Oh, that stuff Bill Gates said recently.
Oh my God. All right, we're gonna get to it.
Let's tie that into the Obama thing after we talk about it, because it goes.
Yeah. So and if you survive all those shots, please go to the hospital because you will have alcohol poisoning. But I believe it's in Atlanta. If they don't talk about voter suppression and gerrymandering when in Atlanta, especially when it comes to Stacey Abrams and Stacey Abrams' race, and literally the corruption that happened in those races in a Democratic primary debate. That shows you everything that you need to know about how they care about identity politics, how they care about justice and equality, all of that, all of those things. If they don't speak on that, if they don't speak on how Atlanta was transformed when the former mayor of Atlanta said, "Yo, we need black businesses and black contractors to fix the airports, to fix the roads," and they don't talk about how housing, especially in Atlanta, has gone up and people are being pushed out in Georgia. And if they don't talk about housing in this,
I don't think they have talked about housing.
They have not talked about housing once. They have not talked about housing once, and how black home ownership has gone down 50% in this country since President Trump, and they have not talked about it once. And you want to talk about closing the racial wealth gap? That's one way that we can do that. That's how because studies have shown that over 60 to 70% of wealth that is passed down, and the 60 to 70% of wealth in this country is passed down from generation to generation. It's not that people earned it; it's people was born into the good DNA club.
Yeah.
So
good.
Right.
Good according to the standards of a white supremacist patriarchal culture.
Right. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, so if we're going to talk about how to generate wealth and we're going to talk about closing the racial wealth gap, we're going to talk about those things, then those things I guarantee will not be talked about. But I think this debate's gonna be fire. I think we're gonna be coming back here, talking about having some good things to talk about next week. But I think the debate tonight's gonna be fire. But yeah, you want to talk about what our former president had to say?
Let's take a quick break.
Yeah,
and then once we get back, we'll dive on into that. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
Put that cookie down now!
You're listening to WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for radio evolution.
It may not be apparent, but hunger is a rather prominent issue amongst the student body of Western. The Invisible Need Project is a multifaceted initiative that's aimed to help struggling students. Every 2 weeks, generous people donate their food to the pantry located in the Fawn Student Service buildings or other drop-off locations. All you need to do is grab a reusable bag and grab whatever food you need to help sustain yourself. If anyone's unsure when their next meal will be, or if you have a little extra food you'd be willing to donate, the food pantry is your place. If you're looking to help donate, become a volunteer, or just learn more, call 269-387-4742 or email dosa-inp@wmich.edu for details.
Hello. We are back. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. To clarify to a listener just called in, no, we are not done dragging Pete Buttigieg. We got to make turns for other folks. So
I know we are equal opportunity when it comes to dragging everyone, and he will have to come to the altar and then sit down next to Jesus, because we have a conversation that we need to have about him.
Yeah.
Because I don't like his campaign saying that black people are homophobes, like that whole thing coming out of their camp. Yeah. But that's a whole nother conversation that we can have after we're done.
All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about So Obama recently, came out of the woodwork to warn basically the Democratic Party's base and the electorate that typically votes Democratic Party. It's like, don't go too far left. Oh no, we're going to freak out people in the Midwest. Now, before I dive into the fact that, it's more complicated than that. Progressive policies are vastly popular across the political spectrum. But let's go back to 2008. Look at how Barack Obama, at the time, campaigned. Did he campaign by going to the center, saying I can out centrist Hillary? No, he ran to the left. The left wing, the activist wing of the party, all of those people are what got him elected in 2008. And then as soon as he got in, he turned, and this kind of sounds harsh, but it's true. He turned his back on those people. Citibank, chose his cabinet.
To quote President Obama, if you look at the way he governed like a moderate Republican from the 80s.
Yeah, but you want to know how he got that nomination from Hillary back in 2008? It's because he ran as a progressive. He was the one selling some oil back then, on the snake oil, that is.
No. So look, I'm not gonna.
Maybe that was a little harsh.
No, it's not that. I'm one of the people who on this program have talked about President Obama, and when we did a breakdown of his presidency, him and Joe Biden, when we broke down their presidency, I gave them a B. If we're going to be honest, he was a good steward of the economy in our lifetimes, being 30-something-year-old.
I would agree if you're basically grading all of the American presidents on a curve.
No, if you're,
to me, they all get an F.
again,
or a G for guillotine.
Wow, I don't support that at all. That's too far. No, but I mean, if we're going to base it off of Noam Chomsky and how Noam Chomsky said every president after if the Nuremberg trials was held, if that standard was still held, every president after World War II would be in The Hague. If we're grading it based off of Noam Chomsky's philosophy, I'm basing it off of the presidents in our lifetime, or presidents who are still around. So from Carter to Trump, and if we're going to base the ranking between Carter and Trump, then you have to put President Obama in the top two. There's no question that if we're basing it from Carter to Trump, which is our lifetime, then he's the best president that we've had. Here's the problem with that. Just because he's the best president that we had, that also does not clear him of the atrocities that they also did. Were there good things in his presidency? Yes. When he ran for re-election, and when he ran for election in 2008 and in 2012, he ran as a progressive. He ran as a fighter. Like that ad that he did against Mitt Romney about that was that ad where he had a Mitt Romney voter basically say Bain Capital came to our company and basically made us dig our own grave, and he said, I felt like I dug my own grave. Oh my God. Like that was like, again, from a battle rap perspective, that's the room shaker. that's one of those. That's if you're watching Smack, that's one of the moments when they be like, Young DeMarco. If I Young DeMarco. Yeah, it's one of those moments. But here's the thing. Him coming out now, and this is my own speculation, so please take this with a grain of salt. This is my own speculation. He came out and said that. Deval Patrick jumped into the race. Bloomberg jumped into the race. This is around the same time where Biden and Buttigieg's numbers are not doing well. Even though it's true, Buttigieg is leading in Iowa, Biden's numbers is falling. A lot of his gaffes and a lot of his history has been brought back to light thanks to the internet, thanks to YouTube, thanks to progressive media. And people's been shredding him. And he's been doing a lot to himself. So they keep saying we gotta wait till South Carolina. South Carolina, a lot of times, if you look historically, they will change their vote. And over half of the voters said that they may change their mind when it comes to the time for them to do their election. On top of the fact, since California's now been moved up, California starts voting the same time that their early voting starts voting. I think around the same time as Nevada or New Hampshire. So correct me if I'm wrong. So I feel like him doing this means that the internal polling when it comes to Obama's camp and Buttigieg's camp does not look good. That's my own speculation. That he came out saying this. And also, it goes back to the legacy. It also goes back to the one thing that President Obama cared about the most, which is his legacy. If we get universal health care, for example, that dwarfs the ACA. Even though he said we should go beyond what I did, and he also came out and supported Medicare for all a couple months ago.
That's true, we did.
So
backtracking going on.
Yeah, but there's some backtracking going on. So if two of the policies that we talk about, climate change and Medicare for all, and abolishing student loan debt, let's say those three. If those three things pass, that completely dwarfs everything that's happened from a president, that a president has done positively within the last 30, 40 years. Like, the only other thing that you can compare those accomplishments to is making the Supreme Court saying that the LGBT have the right to marry anybody that they want, the Fair Housing Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the Civil Rights Act.
By the way, if you think that doesn't actually run in these people's calculus, Joe Biden recently made it very explicit, like on Twitter. He literally said, ACA was one of the most important parts of our legacy. When I was up there being vice president, I will defend it to, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the effect like, I will defend it tooth and nail. I will defend it to the death from the right and the left. And in response to that, it's like, you are so about like defending this piece. It's like there are actual lives at stake. No, think of how separated you are from the common problems of everyday people. That something like getting better health care services in the United States it's a matter of personal pride for you, and getting something better would somehow trample on that legacy. It's a strange way to think.
It's the idea that my accomplishments in history dwarfs the fact that 37 to 45,000 people die every year because they don't have medical insurance. That millions of Americans every year go into bankruptcy because of medical bills. Like, that's the reality. And the fact that you're comfortable, or he's comfortable, and he's fighting tooth and nail to make sure that stays a reality, that a for-profit middleman, the insurance company, blocks patients and makes more money blocking patients from getting health care, while stating that we're trying to give people choice, is the problem. These are coming from the same people that say that we're America, we can do anything, and that we want to give people choice. Well, it wasn't Rashida Tlaib. It was what's her name? Pramila Jayapal went on CNN and explained it in a beautiful way. I'm actually going to put it, when we put this link up, I'm going to put that video up there of her explaining we don't have choice now. Medicare for All gives choice. We don't have choice now. You don't have choice on what kind of plan you get. Your employer does that. That's if you're in the private market and you're getting your insurance from your employer. You don't get to choose what type of plan you have. Your employer does. You don't get to choose what kind of coverage you have. Your insurance company does. If you don't have a job, or if you don't have a job, you don't have insurance at all. And if you get sick, or you need to take care of a loved one, or you need to take care of a child or something, you might end up having to pay out of pocket, pay co-pays, deductibles, or some premiums that may bankrupt you. That's the system that we have now that you're defending. In comparison to Americans saving more money because universal health care, Medicare for All would save Americans money. You don't have to pay co-pays, premiums, or deductibles. If you want to go back to school, you will still be able to have health care. If you want to start a small business, you can go back to saving health care. And Bernie Sanders makes it mandatory that the money that your company, if you have the company insurance, that money that they're paying to the insurance companies now goes into your pocket as a raise. Mm-hmm. So you are literally on top of the fact that every person in the country would be covered, and also the overwhelming majority of Americans agree that they would pay higher taxes if everybody could get universal health care. So this is something that the American people want. Yet the argument is it's going too far left. You know what I'm saying? So that's the problem that I have. The problem that I have, and it goes back to the initial issue that we're caring more about someone's legacy than actually serving the people. And at the same time, you're protecting your donors.
Yeah, exactly. And, here's another kind of, aspect of this that I think what he said is really dangerous and really kind of like a deeper historical way.
He said some stuff that was good. I do want to get to the stuff that he did say that was good.
That's true too, but this whole idea of like not pushing policies or politics that are too far to the left, here's the thing. It's, Obama and Biden, they're willfully, and I don't know, maybe Biden really does think it is still a winning strategy or whatever to push centrism, but they're on a playbook from the 90s, a decade that was, granted, was full of its own imperial violence and turbulence and all that stuff, but we weren't in the kind of there's that old Lenin quote. There's decades where nothing happens, and then there's weeks where decades happen. We're in an extremely turbulent time. Not too much unlike the last 20s that we had. We're in the middle of a global crisis of capitalism, the resurgence of fascism, and climate change. To go out there and push this centrist message, we just need to mobilize the moderates. That's not gonna cut it anymore. When we are in these kind of historical bottlenecks like this, and you can see this most clearly leading up to World War II, when we had FDR as president, you can either give people two answers. You can either answer their material conditions with progressive policy or with fascism. And if we ain't got a real strong lefty social policy politics in this country, we already seen the other direction where it's going to go. I mean, we're literally seeing it right now. So I really think it is dangerous for them to push these policies, but at the end of the day, people like Barack Obama, people like Bill Gates, they would rather have a fascist in power than somebody who might tax them a little bit. I mean, we'll talk about that in a sec.
But I do want to. This is not just a complete and utter dragging. There is a part of what he said that was actually true and that I agree with. Now, other people who want to call in and not agree with me, we can debate that. Not on air because we don't have the technology right now to do that. Sorry. But he said, "Yo, people shouldn't drop out because I had a contested primary and I won, and we should, as Democrats, support contested primaries." I agree with that. I agree that if Amy Klobuchar or Mayor Pete or if Marianne Williamson and others still want to be in the race, let them be in the race. Marianne Williamson is one of the only people who's been talking about reparations in a substantive way and actually put a policy plan out there to do so.
She also seems to have and everybody makes the orb jokes, but she does seem to have a better intuition about how a lot of these issues intersect than most of the candidates standing up there.
Oh, no. Marianne has said some nutso stuff. Like let's not get it twisted. Marianne says nutty stuff, but I appreciate that she was on a national stage saying this debt is old and we as a country will not heal if we don't pay it. I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that Andrew Yang's talking about universal basic income, even though I do not agree with the fact on how he would implement it, because he's doing it from a regressive with a regressive tax that would hurt the average American, on top of the fact that he's trying to take away different social safety nets to apply it. So if you were on food stamps, you couldn't get it, which goes against the idea of universal basic income, because if the person needs food assistance or needs food stamps or something like that, then they would need that UBI to help supplement what their living situation. Taking that away and giving them less money from the government is not going to help. But again, it's a net positive. We're talking about UBI. FDR talked about UBI. Martin Luther King talked about UBI.
I think bottom line,
so
one
it's
of
a
the
positive
good things
thing
you can say about this election cycle is that most of the most viable candidates have actually talked about ideas, like new ideas, and for a long time, Democratic candidates really stagnated, especially with the Clintons. The whole idea was we were going to outfox, the Reaganites from the center right, center left, and it's a different time. People are ready for and want those progressive policies again, and the Democratic Party, it's a party that has fully. And it's gone itself to the billionaire class. They don't want to return to being a party that has a populist wing.
To add to that, this is the reason why Tulsi's been getting a lot of cross-platform support. Now, look, I don't like the fact that she's like Narendra Modi. I don't like the fact that she started to backtrack a little bit on Medicare for all. But she clarified herself on the Jimmy Dore show. Shout out to the Jimmy Dore show. I still think that she's allowing duplicative care when it comes to her Medicare for all plan, which is the problem. Yeah. But she is for a Medicare for all type of policy. So I'm like, all right, cool. But you cannot say that even though some of her foreign policy is bad, I did not support the fact that she didn't support the BDSM thing that happened in Congress.
BDSM.
I mean, BDS, not BDSM. BDS, yeah. BDS. Boycotts, divestment, and sanctions, not BDSM. My bad. Yeah. But I don't like the fact that she didn't support that. Her, Ro Khanna, and a couple of progressives didn't support that. But you cannot say that she's not for trying to get out of regime change wars. You cannot say that she's not an anti-war candidate. You know what I mean?
That is true.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's
very strong voice.
Yeah. So to bring it back to the main subject, it's not going too far left when you agree with the overwhelming majority of the country. What that means is that you've moved too far right to try to appease people that don't like you. It is a backward strategy. This is the reason why when President Obama, it goes back to his philosophy. When he was president, he tried to have beer summits. He tried to play nice with these troglodytes, and playing nice with troglodytes will get your hand bit.
Well, it's like Joe Biden's part of one of his big campaign points is like, I know how to work with Republicans. I'll work with the Republicans again. And it's like,
yeah, the fever will break.
Yeah, did you not pay attention to what happened during those 8 years when you were the Veep? I don't know.
I'm like, dog. Oh, you work with Republicans? You said you could work with Republicans? How did Merrick Garland turn out? Brother, we saw what happened. Wake up. Maybe you're sleeping. Like, are you sleeping standing up? Like, brother, are you there? Are you there? Like, it infuriates me because they act. I don't know if it's the mainstream media or if it's just the political establishment, but we act like the people who we're going to be fighting against, not just the Republicans, these are also Democrats, are good faith actors. They're not because they are paid not to.
Yeah, and I want to kind of tie up the hour and kind of everything we've been talking about. I wanted to go back to, we vaguely mentioned it, like the whole Bill Gates thing.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Let's jump on that.
He talked about, like, in the face of a Sanders or Warren presidency, he said he would consider voting for Donald Trump. Now, actually,
he didn't say that in all those words in that way, but he did come. More or less, he was like, I'm gonna weigh out my options.
So I wanted to read. This is a really on-point analysis from Anand Giridharadas. Sorry, hopefully I said that right.
Are you reading this from Twitter?
Well, yeah, but he's like, this is good stuff.
Okay.
So, and it ties into kind of some of my own feelings about it. So, all right. So here's what they said. And early they kind of took the words from my mouth. I don't know what their gender is, but they unpacked this whole story in a way that kind of resonated with me. Is kind of my own feelings on it. So, billionaires like Gates, they fire back, saying that they support higher taxes, but we don't have them now, so I need to do this philanthropy. Now here comes 2 out of the top 3 candidates with major proposals to take away a big share of Gates' wealth in order to build a more equitable society. And now that the prospect is real, not only is he not excited about it, he mulls voting for a white nationalist to stop it. This is a guy who does stuff for Africa all day, every day. Malaria nets up the wazoo. But he will contemplate voting for a president who speaks of these places as S-hole countries because he doesn't favor a wealth tax. This is a guy who does work to empower women and girls. But a violent, predatory misogynist isn't a deal breaker for him in a president because Warren's wealth tax is higher than he deems right. This is a game-changing moment for this conversation. Because if we can't even trust Bill Gates to put his desire for a better world above his self-preservational plute drive, then who on planet Earth can we trust? Somebody already said it. They want control of how they spend their money and to be praised for it. It was always about power, not about helping others. I don't even think it's about controlling money. I think it's about power over others. Taxes don't come with accolades or positive PR. Taxes don't give you a wing of a hospital named after you or a foundation. Taxes don't let you host fundraising dinners where you can network with other obscenely rich people. For a lot of these billionaires, donations are seen as a way to buy things without actually buying them. If a billionaire was willing to save the world, then one of them would have done it already. The truth is, you only get to get $1 billion because you're greedy and you don't give a crap about anybody other than yourself. So,
young DeMarco.
It boils down to me just so much because, like, when you're talking about, like, especially when they're talking about how like billionaires wield philanthropy. Kind of as its own kind of, market economy of power. That is how it really functions here in the city of Kalamazoo. You think about it. We've got these billionaires who, you saw this play out in action. Progressive income taxes on the table. No, we don't want that. Here's what we will do. This foundation, where our names are attached to it, and everybody can praise us for being such great philanthropists, even though, again, we could have done it in a completely different way, a more democratic way, but, yeah, your rubber hits the road. And, I want to warn a lot of people here, too, because there's a lot of people in Kalamazoo, I think, they have this idea that there's basically like 5 billionaire families in this town. You got the Strikers, the Gilmores, the Upjohns, the Johnstons, and the Parfettes. And there's this idea in this town that we just have 5 Bruce Waynes that are just going to be benevolent forever. And, you believe that? I don't know what to tell you, man. You should have stopped believing in Santa Claus when you were around, 12 or so. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So to get back to the original point, dog, Bill Gates was also looked at as the liberal billionaire. He's the one that was supposed to be on the right side of things. And also, I don't like the fact that he misrepresented both their plans. He said, if you're going to tax me $20 billion, I'm okay with it. You're going to tax me $100 billion, now I'm going to have a problem. Forgetting the fact that Bill Gates has $109 billion. Even if we taxed $100 billion from Bill Gates, he would still be a multi-billionaire. On top of the fact that we could eradicate poverty with we could eradicate homelessness in America with $100 billion. We could have put that $100 billion into a fund and start using that as a way for reparations. We could use that money to rebuild the infrastructure in Flint and in multiple other cities that don't have clean drinking water. Let's not $100 billion. He has a problem with when the bills that were the proposals that Warren and Sanders had. Warren would tax him $3 billion. I think Sanders would tax him $6 billion. Even if we go with, let's say we taxed him $9 billion. Let's say we're gonna go even farther past what Bernie wants, and we're gonna tax him $9 billion. He would still have $100 billion left. Come on, son.
Functionally, in the way that a normal person would need to spend money to survive, they basically, Bill Gates, once you get to a certain point, I'm thinking, it's, even with all of his assets, it's very difficult for anybody to imagine how he personally would need or could spend that money. It's a tool. It's a tool to say, I have this much money, I'm going to put it where I want, but don't come for it, because that represents my power.
Yeah.
It's not that he could functionally spend that money in his lifetime. It's that this signifies my power. Don't come for my power.
He has more, just to put it in a perspective, he has more wealth than some countries. In this, he has more wealth than the GDP of some countries in this world. That's how ridiculous it is for him to be crying about a wealth tax. He doesn't have to worry about where he's going to be sleeping at night. He doesn't have to worry about if his kids are going to be eating at night. He doesn't have to worry about if he has to forego getting his medicine or putting gas in his car so he can make it to work. These are not problems that he has had to face or think about for a very long time. But an overwhelming majority of Americans have to think about that on a daily basis. That's what we're talking about. That's the disconnect that you are literally seeing in real time from multiple billionaires going on television. Think about it. You have multiple billionaires going on television and having access to mainstream media to cry about a wealth tax. Meanwhile, we have homeless veterans on the street. People who have given who's risked their lives to protect our country. At the same time, come on, son. Come on, son.
It's just so many at the same times. At the same time that people were using close to slave labor to get a lot of the precious minerals that we need for our phones and our cars, and that's what's going on in Bolivia right now. Part of it.
Hold on. At the same time, he's crying about a wealth tax. There's people's houses in California that's on fire, and that you have prisoners who are fighting the fires for $1 an hour.
$1 an hour.
No, not $1. Yeah, well, I thought it was like $1. Yeah, $1 an hour. Like, come on, son. Come on, son.
So, like, a full day, 8-hour day that you can go get a meal down at McDonald's. Yeah.
Like, come
Actually,
on.
it's California, so maybe.
No,
like
they wouldn't
$1
be.
maybe.
Because I've been to California. No, they wouldn't be.
No.
Because California's sales tax and their prices is too high. They couldn't even get a meal at McDonald's, bro.
Yeah, no.
Like not at all.
Yeah.
Dog, here's the thing. This is also the thing that should also tell you. When you look at which billionaires have endorsed the candidates, Mayor Pete, Cory Booker, Tulsi Gabbard, but Kamala Harris, Joe Biden have millionaire supports out the wazoo. Same thing. Warren actually had some supporters that were millionaires. The only person who's been keeping that same energy when it comes to billionaires is Bernie Sanders. And it's to the point where a billionaire tried to give Bernie Sanders money, Bernie Sanders sent the money back. Like he's like, nah, son. Keep that. He's like, nah, son. I keep that same energy all day, all day. All right, but before speaking about billionaires and talking about control, I gotta talk about this Colin Kaepernick story.
Oh yeah.
Since we're talking about people who want control and controlling the narrative.
Just real quick before we go into that,
story.
I just gotta remind everyone: the following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 FM, WIDR Kalamazoo, or Western Michigan University, no matter how dope or insightful they may happen to be. So now that I've said that at the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Colin Kaepernick. Actually,
all right.
Actually, how about do you want to go into Colin Kaepernick? I would like to touch. We've got at least one local story. And
I do want to touch. I do want to touch on the local story. Let's take a quick break. Let's take a quick break. Get our game plan together, and then we'll come back.
All right, sounds good. All right, y'all.
And I got one better.
I wonder what we're gonna hear on Wider FM today. Oh, this is nice, but, I want to hear something else.
It's the bad man from Bristol, banging it kind of critical. Blow your party out for good times. Like
This is also good, but what more can they offer?
super heavy with the styles you can never do.
We get by.
I guess it's true.
Love and faith.
Wider really is
We get
Radio
by
Evolution.
with a smile.
89.1 FM, WIDR Kalamazoo.
We get by with help from our kin.
Oh yeah, we gotta watch some battle. I gotta show you them battle raps.
Oh yeah,
I gotta show you them battles. So
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
We're back on air.
Oh man, no. Okay, shameless plug. Shameless plug. Do. Shameless plug. December 14th. Myself and a few of my friends will be performing at WMU. Not WMU. The YMCA. The YWCA is having a fundraiser at the YMCA, and my friend Joy, who is a super dope, talented dancer and fantastic artist, was like, "Hey yo, I need some dancers and some other artists who are super dope to come do a showcase." And my friend Joy was like, "Hey yo, Lawrence, what you doing? You ain't doing nothing. You ain't doing nothing on that day. You ain't busy.
Are you gonna be getting in your b-boy stance?"
Basically, me and my people go out to me and my friends are gonna go and do a thing. My former crew, Kalamazoo crew, I think is hopefully Kalamazoo will be there. I'm hoping that they'll be there because they're one of the only crews in the area that in my opinion still holds it down in an authentic way when it comes to hip hop and hip hop dance. Also, shameless plug, Western Michigan University. Shout out to Western Michigan University. They have a hip hop museum that they are creating on Western's campus.
What?
Shout out to the Lewis Walker Institute. Lewis Walker Institute's been putting it down. They had the dude that was that wrote the book on how to be anti-racist. They had him here. They had some people from. They're gonna be having people from Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. They had the dude that I got a chance to interview, Daryl Johnson, talking about domestic terrorism. You know what I'm saying? Because of the Lewis Walker Institute. Like, Lewis Walker Institute's been putting they've been putting it down. You know what I'm saying?
Kudos to them, man.
Like, they also correct me if I'm wrong, I think they also brought the dude from they also brought the guy, one of the people from Central Park 5 up here to talk about when they see us. And like, man, bruh, like, fantastic. Like, shout out to Lewis Walker Institute, everybody who's at the Lewis Walker Institute.
Yeah.
Shameless plugs all around.
That's some good programming.
Yes, man. Shameless plugs. Do. Shameless plug. All right. Now, since we were talking about in before the break, power and privilege, nothing says that better than the story we're about to get to today. That's been on everybody's mind. Colin Kaepernick. Shout out to Cap. Shout out to their team for making the best out of a bad situation. For those who do not know, last week, Tuesday, the NFL decided to tell the world that they're going to give Colin Kaepernick a tryout workout thing, a workout, mm-hmm. so that they can evaluate if he's still at an elite level of play.
By the way, for those of you who don't know, Colin Kaepernick famously protested for Black Lives for a couple years there in the NFL and made a lot of very butthurt white people very butthurt.
Yes. He took
why football man don't stand up?
Well, see. So at first he sat during the national anthem, and then he talked to a Marine. I forget the Marine's name, but he talked to a fellow Marine. I forgot the guy's name, and the Marine told him, "Yo, instead of sitting, how about you kneel? Kneeling is a better way to show this protest." And Colin was like, "All right, cool, I'll do that."
Please remember that for next week. And you got your racist uncle at Thanksgiving. You just point that out. And
yeah,
I think it does undercut. It's like he literally did what a United States veteran asked him to. You just don't like him because he's calling out the American police state. And
he's black. But anyway, so after that, he was whiteballed. I'm not calling it blackballed because that's what it is. It was a bunch of white owners that colluded. Yep. It was a bunch of white owners that colluded to keep him out of the league, and he was whiteballed and denied for 3 years to get a job. So much so that earlier in February, they settled with him out of court because he was going to prove that they colluded to keep him out of the league. So they settled with him. Months go by. Jay-Z is brought in to give the NFL a new spin on the whole protest thing because people are still not feeling it. And then Jay-Z gets a bunch of backlash when they realize that Crushers Club, which is where some of the money is going to, has a racist white woman who likes to cut black people's dreadlocks, while Jay-Z has dreads. Crusher Club believes that black people will not be successful and that all lives matter if they have dreads. If they have dreads, they will not be successful black people, as one of the people who's giving them money has dreadlocks. Okay, so anyway, that's a whole nother tangent. So on Friday last week, the NFL says Jay-Z basically calls Roger Goodell, and this is speculation. Jay-Z calls Roger Goodell saying, yo, my public image is getting slaughtered. Y'all need to give Colin Kaepernick a tryout. Y'all need to give him a tryout. This is speculation. So he's like, all right, we're gonna give him a tryout we're gonna do it on Saturday. Problem: most teams' workouts are not on Saturday, they're on Tuesday. On Saturday, they're traveling or they're going to a hotel to get ready for the game that are on Sunday. So overwhelming majority of the team's owners, GMs, coaches, and scouts, people who actually have the power to make the decision to hire him, will not be where they will not be at this workout. Strike number one. That's coming from the NFL side because they chose not to put it on a Tuesday. And Colin Kaepernick's people asked him, yo, can we do this on Tuesday? They said no. Strike one from the good faith argument that the NFL is not lying in this situation. That's strike one against them. Strike two. Here's strike two. Colin's like, all right. Can I get the coach and the names of the receivers so I can know who's giving said workout and who I will be throwing to, and if I'll know they're professionals or not? NFL says earlier that week that they will do that. On Thursday and Friday, they renege and say, no, we're not going to give you the name of the person who's giving you the workout, nor are we giving you the name of the people you'll be throwing to. If you're a quarterback, making sure that you have professional receivers that know what they're doing is a part of the game.
Yeah.
So strike one, strike two. Here comes strike three. Okay. I'm a free agent, so that means I have rights. I have rights as a free agent, and I'm going to need to sign a waiver. The waiver that they send him has different language than the waiver that he signed back in 2011. And the waiver that they signed him basically signs away his rights as a free agent and him wanting to move forward with litigation that they're still colluding to keep him out. And it basically, as multiple lawyers have now said on ESPN, it would be malpractice if they allowed their client to sign that waiver because it signs away the player's rights. Yeah. Strike three. Here's strike four, just for good measure. Colin says, all right, I'm not going to sign that paper, but that's the thing. But if we care about transparency, can we bring the media in? I want this to be a public showing so that there's no manipulation of the film. The NFL says yes, that's okay. On Tuesday and Thursday, they renege and say no. So, strike four. So let's count, shall we? The overwhelming majority of the teams will not be there because it's on a Saturday. He does not know who he's throwing to or who's giving out said workouts. The waiver that they wanted to sign signs away his rights as a free agent, and the National Football League does not want this to be public, so they can control the narrative of what he has and what he can or cannot do. So what does Colin do? He calls up his friends. He calls up some people who he know are professionals, who are in it, who will be in Atlanta at the time, who are professional receivers. He calls in some favors. He's like, look, we're gonna do this at a different location. We're gonna make it public. We're gonna have some people who I trust as to give the workout, and we're gonna have some professional receivers. And I'm not even signing that waiver at all. If this is about my merits as a player, then I'm going to show that I'm still an elite athlete. So he does that. He goes after the NFL after the workout. After workout goes public, and he puts it on YouTube, and he says, we've been fighting for 3 years. I've been denied 3 years. NFL we're gonna send this tape to all of the teams. Will y'all stop running from the truth? The truth is, I'm an elite athlete. Blah 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 blah, etc. etc. Y'all know where I'm at. The next day, you got people like Stephen A. Smith and other people who are who carry water for the establishment, in this case being ESPN and the NFL, basically saying that because Colin Kaepernick wore a Kunta Kinte shirt, because Colin Kaepernick didn't kowtow to the NFL, because he did not bend over backwards and kiss the ring. If you've ever seen the movie Roots, it's a fantastic analogy. Kunta did not say Toby. He does not want to be in the NFL that much. So this is the argument that you see a lot in the mainstream media. He doesn't really want to play. He just want to be a martyr. No, he does want to play. He showed that he's an elite athlete, and he still got it. He wasn't going to sign away his rights as a player, because as a free agent, that's all he has to make sure that the corporation that screwed him over in the first place does not continue to screw him over.
Yeah, that's right. And, a lot of people forget, even though it is a very high-paid job, being an NFL player, there's still, workers organizing that goes on with them, too, because a lot of these fundamental issues about, healthcare and rights, the NFL players make a lot of money, but they also do a lot of damage to their bodies. And there have been instances over the last few decades of, players organizing amongst themselves when the NFL was bucking against them getting adequate health care. And
concussion, we can go into concussion protocol and how the NFL tried to skirt the fact that concussions, their concussion protocol and how it affected people's minds after they stopped playing, forgetting the fact that the average professional NFL player only lasts 3 years. They only last 3 years because of how damaging the sport is to their body. Also, on top of the fact that we're also forgetting that, and this is the thing that infuriated me, especially with Stephen A. Smith being a black commentator on ESPN, when he said all of Colin Kaepernick's basically everything that he was fighting for was eradicated because he didn't bend over backwards to kowtow to the NFL. The thing that pissed me off the most about that is that we're denying the facts. And the facts of the case are that the NFL chose to punish someone for using their First Amendment rights. They're not judging him based on the content of his character. They're not judging him based on the content of his product, which is him being a former Super Bowl quality quarterback. We're not judging him because of that. We're judging him because of his First Amendment right to speak his mind and what he chose to fight for. So much so that Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, basically said that in no sense of terms that it was a publicity stunt that the NFL did, and they were doing it because they wanted to make Colin Kaepernick the bad guy. He basically said that, and Jerry Jones does not like Colin because he's a Trump supporting white owner. So it makes me angry because we have people who are trying to put the framework out there like it was Colin's fault. Like it was Colin's fault for fighting back. So if I'm getting beat down, it's my fault for defending myself. If I'm getting jumped, it's my fault that I'm defending myself. If I'm getting shot at, it's my fault because I was running. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing that bothers me the most. At the same time, I don't know if we talked about it on this show, but I talked about it on my on Coffee Talk, my Facebook Live that I do on Friday and Saturday. The Buffalo Bills flew the "Don't Tread on Me" flag right next to the American flag when they sung the national anthem, and outside of the stadium they have the Blue Lives Matter flag flying under the American flag. Yet there are still players who are kneeling and protesting, and they have other players and coaches that will stand in front of them so the cameras don't see. Think about that. This man is talking about, this man who sparked the conversation about police brutality and wanted to bring awareness to it, and he put his money where his mouth was, because while he was still playing, he put $1 million, while he was still playing and after, he put $1 million of his own money and people who donated to him to multiple organizations talking about having citizens know what their rights are and fighting back against police brutality. Yet you had the Buffalo Bills fly the neo-Nazi flag, the "Don't Tread on Me" flag in the stadium, right next to the American flag. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but the Nazis lost against America. Why are we flying their flag?
So we're talking about it's the one with the snake that's coiled on the ground. Sometimes it's referred to as the Gadsden flag.
Yeah, the Gadsden flag. Yeah. They flew the Gadsden flag in Buffalo Bills Stadium.
I usually refer that symbol as like some gateway drug stuff to the neo-Nazi stuff, because like a lot of like left or a lot of like libertarians or whatever use that flag. A lot of like the kind of anti-government conservatives, but it's not that big of a step from that to like Threepers and like Proud Boys and all that.
Dog, the flag was being flown. Okay, that flag was being flown next to the Confederate flag when they in Charlottesville. That flag should not be nowhere near the American flag if you're singing the Star Spangled Banner. On top of the fact that you've had players run over people, you have players hit their wives, you had players doing dog fights, you have players on steroids and selling drugs. So if we're talking about the content of somebody's character, you have someone who's looked at in today's day and age as a civil rights hero, compared to the other players that you've still let play into the league, and you're telling me that you're not going to sign him when he's still an elite level player in comparison to what you are still allowing to be in the league today.
Got the results of the test back. They definitely have racism.
Right. So like come on, son. What that workout was to like, and we gotta go to the next topic. What that workout was the owners trying to see if this black man will be obedient. That's what they wanted to see. They wanted to see, will this black man obey? Will he obey, and will he be obedient? Will Kunta say Toby? And we saw exactly what happened. He said, "Nah, I know who I am. I know my rights. I know what I got." And you have a lot of people on TV now who's saying he should have said Toby. And all intents and purposes, they basically are saying, "No, he should have said Toby," and that's not how this works.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, I'm going to segue. This is a local story, but, I mean, it's definitely got its own depths of classism and racism to it. And I thought it'd be interesting for me and Lawrence to talk to. We're both Lloyd Norris graduates, and this kind of hits close to home for us.
06.
But the behavioral capacity issue spurred changes to free bus program for Kalamazoo students. This is from the Gazette. It's published yesterday. Officials are temporarily limiting students' free access to city buses through the Kalamazoo Youth Mobility Fund because of both behavioral problems and capacity issues, said Steve Brown, coordinator for the Foundation for Excellence, which funds the program. Beginning Monday, December 2nd, students will not be allowed to ride the bus for free between the hours of 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. This is what that program did initially. The restriction will remain in place through February 3rd. When the 2-hour restriction is lifted in February 2020, the free ride program will begin requiring students present a modified student ID issued to those who complete an opt-in form to participate. Brown said officials realize this won't be the most popular option, but said the changes being made to the program are limited, temporary, and necessary. The Youth Mobility Fund is a partnership between KPS, the City of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo Metro Transit, and the Kalamazoo Public Library. It was approved during a January meeting of the KPS Board of Education to begin in fall 2019. Recent behavioral issues seen at the downtown Metro Transit Center and on city buses include fights between students, Brown said. There have been multiple fights, including multiple students at the Transit Center, Metro Executive Director Sean McBride said. During a 2-week period in October, he said staff counted at least 5 incidents involving students. Metro experienced incidents involving riders prior to the program, but not to the intensity seen more recently, McBride said. And anyway, it goes on to say, students who wish to have free access to the buses must fill out an opt-in form and will regain all-day free access to the city buses using a new student ID in February, Brown said. Especially between those afternoon hours, the buses are at capacity and paying riders are not able to ride the bus, Brown said. It does not make business sense to run extra buses for one pickup. Students at Loy Norris and K Central are released from school daily at 2:20 p.m. Board of Education member Tandy Moore said in a Facebook post the increase in ridership shows a need for the transportation, that Metro should add buses and routes rather than the measures being put into place. Restrictions that would disparately impact black and brown youth is a civil rights issue, Moore said. And I want to read a little bit from that post because she was really on point with this. No doubt we need to find out a solution to youth conflict, but limiting access to public transportation is throwing the baby out with the bathwater at best. Excluding 2 hours of mobility may seem like an unreasonable compromise on its surface, but those particular 2 hours after school are crucial. But the hours of 2 to 4 p.m. are exactly when our kids most need it. This is the time of day they're on their way to jobs and programs that will help them prosper. Before you try to explain that kids can still get tokens from school, there is no way that school staff is going to be able to make timely and accurate determinations of need or worthiness for thousands of individual students on a daily basis to get those tokens reliably and consistently. In addition, we should all be worried about plans to tie rider passes to student ID beginning in January. We have no word from the KCTA on whether or not Metro, law enforcement, or other agencies would have access to identifying information. Do we want our kids' data out there to be bought and sold? Do we want to usher in a new tool to over-police our kids? There are other solutions. And she goes on to say, and she also says, what about the FFB? There's plenty of money in that banana stand. Kudos to her to making a Arrested Development reference. It seems like we should be able to allocate some funds, even on a temporary basis, to pay for trainings for bus drivers and law enforcement.
FFB, for those who don't know. What is the FFB for those who don't know?
Foundation for Excellence, which is helping bankroll this program. So, I'll start with you, Lawrence. This is newer news to you, but we're both part of the culture. We both went to that school. What are some of your just thoughts on this? Just kind of on a surface.
I was texting some people about this story, and shout out to Young Kings and Queens, and shout out to other people who's gone down there during that time.
Oh, Young Kings and Queens was they were literally blocked from the bus station. Did you hear?
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, because they were asking for people to go down there because apparently there's been police officers pepper spraying and using excessive force on teenagers.
I have been hearing about this as well.
Yeah, so so let's be clear. Let's be clear. Teenagers are going to be reckless. Teenagers are teenagers. Teenagers are going to do stupid things. Teenagers are going to be reckless. When you have more cops going down there to harass, over police, and then use excessive force on teenagers, on children, that's what these are. They are under the age of 18. These are teenagers. Then we're literally using the state to enforce a problem instead of trying to figure out a better solution to deal with the capacity. Obviously, the teenagers are not going to have money for the buses because a lot of the parents may not have money or a way for them to get home safely unless they're using the city bus. So the accommodations should be, in my opinion, making sure that there's more bus routes, making sure that yes, that these kids are not, that yes, these kids need to not be doing overtly reckless things. But we also need to make sure that we are giving grace to these kids because that's what they are. They're teenagers. We should not be abusing them or treating them like they're criminals for being teenagers.
And, I think this ties into a deeper problem with the school board too. Historically, they've been very reluctant to work with grassroots outside groups and community organizations. Kings and Queens comes to mind. One of the things that Tandy and a few other people pointed out is there are people who would be willing to step up and be kind of conflict resolution people, to fill this very specific need for this population. But the school won't work with them, and as a matter of fact, they'll ban them from the bus station.
Yeah, dog, think about that. You would rather have, instead of community members coming down to be like, hey yo, calm down, just get on the bus. Hey, I know your mama. Yeah. Your mama's gonna whoop you. Yeah. You would prevent local civilians who are willing to help with the influx of people at the station at the time, in comparison to have the police officers do it, where the police officers have guns and tasers and pepper spray. You'll rather the violence come from the state instead of having your community, because we always talk about our community always need more community involvement. You'll rather that happen than the community come in and say, hey yo, we'll make sure to watch our kids.
Yeah, and as they get to turn around and be like, well, we got to do it this way, our hands and tied. This kind of collective punishment thing, that was a willful choice. There were people who were willing to step in and make those interventions, and again, there's the money to supply or fund that personnel, but no, they chose instead. It's y'all acting up, okay, no bus for anyone,
right? And that's the thing. If I can't use this, okay, so this is the other issue. What if I'm in an after school program and I can't take the school bus to get to my after school program? I need to take the city bus. So if I'm at, because I know I was doing this when I was at Lloyd Norris and some of my other friends. We had some classes that were at KVCC. So you have to take the city bus because the school bus isn't going to take you out to KVCC.
No,
right.
Sure,
so if I'm not working, I'm a full-time student. If I'm not working, I don't have money for this. So you're punishing, the families who do not have the resources to give their children the money to get on the bus. You're punishing the students because some students are acting up, and you're punishing the city as a whole, because now this is going to be taken out of because they're no longer funding it through the Foundation of Excellence. That means more of that money has to come out of the taxpayers' pocket.
Yeah, and I kind of want to mention too, there's a structural critique in here that I want to really touch on. The Kalamazoo Metro Transit and the others have talked about paying customers of public transit, they're getting frustrated because the buses would be full, et cetera, et cetera. So what is your solution? Is austerity? Cut down on those? No. That means you need a more robust public transit system in the city of Kalamazoo, because if that is an innate handicap of the system, that a particular route having more ridership as a particular hour is under our current system somehow an unfixable problem, then what does that tell you about our transportation system here in Kalamazoo in particular? And really start scaling out with these issues. Public transportation, for the kind of world we need to create in the next few decades, that's the role of public transportation is going to be much more significant. You can't just do the same kind of resource extraction that we do for electric cars. Then you need lithium. and this has come up a lot lately, wars for lithium, what's going on in Bolivia, etc. But the important thing is, like, we need to up ridership of the Kalamazoo Metro Transit. We need to incentivize people to use our bus system. We need to make our bus system better. And if anything, this program has exposed a weakness in our bus system. And instead of looking at it from that standpoint, looking at it as like, how can we make this system better? They look at the opposite of it. It was like, how can we change the ridership to accommodate our system?
Well, here's the thing. The need is still going to be there. It's just that they looked at the need and said, yo, we can make more money off this. Instead of being like, yo, we need to start putting in more buses and more workers. This would be a better net benefit if they would just, during that time period, up the number of buses that were out. But that also would mean that you have to hire more bus drivers. You will have to hire more maintenance people. That also means that you will have to put out more money towards the workers, which, for those who not remember, Metro just had a bus strike a while ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you would have to... So, if people are upset that the buses are being full, that's not... It shouldn't be the paid... It's not the paid riders that should be fixing that problem. It should be Metro that's fixing that problem by adding more buses and routes to accommodate the influx of more people. Like you're working backwards from your conclusion here, and that's the thing that is troublesome, because we're not helping those who are in need. We're punishing them.
Yeah, precisely. And it's like, it's working people who use the bus. I use the bus personally to get around.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is basically like kind of a form of punishment, or not necessarily a regressive tax, because, well, it is a regressive tax in a sense, because that $1.50, it doesn't mean a whole lot to somebody driving around with a BMW, but some people, like, hey, myself, for example, I'm down to my last $15. I'm actually thinking about, like, if I'll be able to afford the bus to work tomorrow. That kind of stuff, that affects people on a day-to-day basis.
I mean, the average income, okay, just for brass tacks, the average income, the median income for the average American that lives in Michigan is $50K, around $50K. But the overwhelming majority of Americans that live in Michigan make less than $30,000 a year. For those who are bad at math, that's around $10, $11 an hour. Like when people have to think about, I need to go donate plasma before I go to work, or what else, what kind of other hustle do I need? This goes back to the conversation that we was having earlier about the wealth and influence. You have billionaires right now telling people who are working class poor that because there are too many of you, we're gonna punish the fact that there's too many of you. You know what I'm saying? Instead of being like, hey, yo, why don't we put some more money into the bus station and we can put some more buses on these lines so that we can deal with the capacity at this time.
Exactly. So I think with that, why don't we take a quick little break, and then we'll close out today's show. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on, going on down in Bolivia, and there's some updates.
We got to also talk about, I stand with Hong Kong all day. Air day. We gotta talk about some of that. Talk about some of those updates.
The whole Hong Kong thing, like, man, that one's a little bit more complicated. It's like, what is it? Well, anyway.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it when we get back.
All right, y'all listen to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
WIDR Listen now to learn about some upcoming shows in the Kalamazoo area. November 16.
Calyx, Lost Nubase, Fluster, and Wajtek at the Greenhouse.
November 17th.
Jupiter Styles, Hold the Person, Coastal Car, and Common Law at Hatchet House.
November 29.
Motherfolk, Modern Adventures, Basic Comfort, and The Rays over at Shakespeare's.
Check out ditkalamazoo.squarespace.com/shows for more information.
Take you out. Guess they're gonna put me in.
Nah, but like, man.
Hey everybody, we're back. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution. So we're gonna spend some time talking a little bit about Bolivia. This is the very latest, and this is just kind of an update. We talked a little bit about it last week, but this is from the headlines at Democracy Now! Was published today. Bolivian military carries out second massacre against Morales supporters. So I'm just going to read this real quick, and we'll dive into some of the deeper context around this story. In Bolivia, police and military forces killed at least 5 pro-Morales protesters and injured dozens more Tuesday, and at least the second massacre against Evo Morales' supporters since the longtime Bolivian president was ousted in what he calls a military coup. And it is a military coup, almost by dictionary definition. But anyway, Tuesday's massacre occurred in the town of El Alto, near the capital of La Paz, where protesters had been blocking a major fuel plant for days. Police and military forces deployed helicopters and armored vehicles to the protest site. Witnesses say a military unit then opened fire on protesters, killing at least 5 young men. This is one of the... So Tuesday's killings follow Friday's massacre near Cochabamba, where security forces killed at least 9 Morales supporters. This all comes as Germany has secured access to Bolivia's vast reservoir of lithium, a key raw material used to produce cell phone and electric car batteries. Shortly before his ouster, Bolivian President Evo Morales said he planned to cancel the agreement with Germany. But the right-wing government of self-declared President Janine Áñez now says the mining deal will move forward. Bolivia's Potosi region is home to over 50% of the world's lithium reserves. That's a quick update, and it gives you some of that crucial context, part of what we're about to talk about. But let's start with you, Lawrence, because last week I talked about this to a pretty deep extent. I guess the only other thing I had insert in there is as of last week, there was talk of Evo Morales and his forces, his party and their forces, marched on a couple of key cities. They basically claimed a weapons depot. The police said that if they came to La Paz, there would not be violence. And there were some lies. There was some outright lies, because there has been some wholesale murder of peaceful protesters going on alongside this. A protest in a constituency that is primarily socialist and indigenous, just as a reminder.
All right, so my first thoughts. Okay, so my initial thoughts. a lot of the mainstream media was trying to say that, oh man, the dude wanted to go for another 5 years. He was trying to become a dictator. Oh man, that sounds really crazy. Like, America doesn't support 78% of the world's dictatorships. This guy wanted to be a dictator, even though he helped. His plans helped fight poverty in a massive way and give the indigenous people their rights in multiple ways. So yeah, this guy is bringing back democracy and equality, and he wants another 5 years. Even though we can make that argument that the Supreme Court let him do that, the Supreme Court of their country let him do that. So like, we can argue that point. We can argue and say, should he have done it? If he's not done it, that's a totally separate issue. The military going in and telling him, nah, bro, you need to get out that seat, though. And the self-proclaimed president, which is the right-winger person, coming in saying, nah, not only are you going to get up out that seat, ayo, police, y'all have immunity to make sure that you crack down on all the protesters that do not like the fact that I am now the self-proclaimed leader of this country.
By the way, when I talked last week about them purging lefties from the Bolivian Congress, that's about three quarters of the current Bolivian Congress is Evo Morales' left-wing, like, socialist indigenous party. So she's talking about ousting most of the government.
Yeah. On top of the fact that she has the military and the police to crack the heads of not only crack the heads of protesters, but also crack the head of journalists. Democracy Now! Showed a video of a Al Jazeera reporter, female reporter, being pepper sprayed in the face. Being sprayed in the face for doing her job of reporting the police destroying the rights and using excessive force on the people.
And, this is a right-wing government that's trying to tell the rest of the world that, like, we did this for democracy. Oh yeah.
But think about the argument. Argument is, this guy was trying to be a dictator, as we do dictator things. Yeah. That's the argument. This guy wanted to be a dictator. Hey, yo, police, crack these people's heads if they don't like the fact that I'm going to put myself in power.
Yeah, and
what?
Again, just saying again from last week, even that falls on. It's like, well, this guy's being a dictator. Oh, well, why do you say that? Well, we think the recent election, there was something fishy about it. And he was like, okay, Organization of American States, because they're those who put out the report about this. Say, okay, what's your evidence? And then OAS was like, hey, look, a coup.
No. The thing was, ayo, we can have a re-election. We could do a re-election. That was the argument. All right, y'all think that there was some fogginess going on? Let's do a re-election.
Avo was totally done with that.
Yeah, and then the thing that made me angry, and this is why I love Redacted Tonight. Shout out to Lee Camp and Redacted Tonight. A lot of mainstream media was basically saying that this was basically not saying that this was a coup. They were basically refusing to say it. And it's like, yo, keep that same energy if you believe that this is not a coup. Keep that same energy if the military told Donald Trump, hey, yo, you need to get up out that seat, son. And Barbara Lee or Nancy Pelosi was like, I'm the new self-proclaimed president. Would we call that a coup? And then Nancy Pelosi or Barbara Lee say, hey, yo, police, whoever doesn't like the fact that I'm taking over, you have immunity to deal with them as you please.
Yeah. I think as our current president said, beat that out of them.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, bruh. Like, come on, son. Like, where's Ed Lover when you need him to get the come on, son signed? Like, come on, son. Get out here with that garbage. It's a coup. Saying
if it walks like a duck and it overthrows democratically elected leftist governments in Latin America like a duck, then
it's an American-based coup. Then it's an American-based coup. It is a coup. And not calling it that is insane. And I shout out to Bernie Sanders. Shout out. This is the reason why I support Bernie Sanders. Shout out to Bernie Sanders. Because when Jorge Ramos talked to him about Bolivia, Bernie was like, nah, dog, it's a coup.
Yeah.
It was a coup. He was like, look, we can argue.
No equivocating.
Yeah.
Or like, you
yeah.
know.
No equivocating. He was like, yo, we can argue the merits on if he should have ran for another 5 years or not. But what happened to him was a coup. Mm-hmm. Like, it was another coup. And it looks eerily similar to all the other ones that America tried to help orchestrate with. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, come on, son. And yeah, why is it that countries that have a lot of mineral wealth that do not kowtow to America or seems to not want to do America's bidding somehow has a coup thrown in the country, like I mean, or have some type of unrest that America wants to focus on. Like it seems kind of weird.
It's like, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like something very similar happened about a year ago to a Latin American country that was rich in oil. It was like, and then, you know, a bunch of stuff happened after
Doug, I don't even want to get into America's foreign policy. Like if we talk about America's foreign policy with Venezuela, or America's foreign policy in Iraq and Afghanistan, America's foreign policy when it comes to what we're doing in Africa right now. Like, dog, it's like you said, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, Affleck.
And, you know, I will say there is still some hope. I mean, it's a very tense situation down there. You know, Evo's still in asylum in Mexico. There are still pro-lefty socialist governments, forces on the ground, and mass popular protest. But it's a very precarious situation, a heck of a lot more precarious than Venezuela ever got. And, you know, it's definitely, I say, if you are a religious person, pray for those people down there, because they are, the people behind this coup are the worst kind of, like, white supremacist type people. There's been graffiti on the sidewalks from like the pro-coup people. It's just like, you know, savages out of Bolivia. You know, Gina Inez, Janine Inez is quoted as saying like it's her goal to get like the indigenous demons out of the country. The Camacho guy like celebrated. It's like there was a Bible back in the. They've been like tearing down, burning indigenous flags. These are those type of people. Those are the ones behind this coup, and that's very scary, you know, for the majority indigenous population down in that country. Crazy.
Okay, so we only got a few more minutes left. We both said we wanted to get to this Mayor Pete story. So this is going to be our lightning round for the last 8 minutes of just stories that we wanted to get to. Let's talk about Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete in South Carolina was trying to get endorsements for this Douglas bill, a bill named after a bill named after the famous civil rights leader, and the bill was supposed to address problems in the black community, and he was trying to get black leaders from South Carolina to back and support that bill and also endorse him for president. By also stating on the website that there was 400 black people who supported it. Well, Ryan Grimm from The Intercept, shout out to Ryan Grimm. Okay.
Does good work, folks.
Shout out to Ryan Grimm. He also works for TYT. He also was on Hill TV with Crystal Ball and the other guy. I forgot who the other guy's name is. Forgive me. Sagar. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, well, shout out to Ryan Grimm. Ryan Grimm and we never talked about speaking about stuff that happened in Latin countries, which we were gonna bring up. We never talked about Glenn Greenwald. What happened to him?
Oh yeah, we got to talk. I did talk a little bit about Lula getting released from jail last week, but we'll
talk about that after this story. Yeah. So when Ryan Graham did some investigation, them 400 black folks that signed on to that bill wasn't 400. I mean, it wasn't 400 black folks. They were white. They were white. The bill was not catered to, created by, or drafted or endorsed by black folks to help fix black people's problems. And the three prominent black folks that were in South Carolina that were supposed to endorse him in the bill, not only not endorse him or the bill, they called him out for lying that they were. To fix that problem, Mayor Pete Buttigieg implemented the "you can opt in" clause to the bill, saying, "Hey, if y'all want to opt out, y'all need to call us by 4 o'clock on Wednesday. If you don't opt out, we're gonna say that you support it." Yeah. So terms and service apply to this endorsement.
Oh man,
Which okay. Also, the other thing that pissed me off is that they took a stock image from Kenya to promote the bill on their page. So the stock image of a black family from Kenya. This is the problem that I had. I'm like, dog, look, I understand that that stock images are free in the public domain and you can use them to promote stuff, but Jesus Christ, dude, if you're gonna say you have a plan that's gonna help black folks in America, at least have some pictures of black people who support the bill
and live in America.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, and live in America, bro. Like, come on, Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete, you said your campaign has come out and said, well, you know, black people don't like you because you're gay. Now, I will admit, because statistics are, because data and statistics are real, there is a high percentage, over 40% percentage of black people who are not okay with homosexuality in the LGBT community. That's a thing. It is a thing. Here's the problem, Mayor Pete. Black people don't like you because they're homophobic. Black people don't like you because you've chosen to turn your back on black people when you were the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Black people don't like you because you try to use your identity to cater or try to connect to the issues in black America without actually having any solutions that would actually help black America, like Medicare for all, or getting rid of student loan debt, or ending redlining. You literally went to striking workers when workers were striking at GM and asked them, when are they going to get back to work? You said that to a black man who was striking, trying to get better pay and health care from the company that ripped them off. Like, come on, Mayor Pete. brother. I need you to go to the front of the church and pray. I need you to go sit. I need you to go take, you need to go take the whole pew in the front row and think about how you messed up. Okay? All right. Now, that's my thoughts. You got any?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, you basically summed it all up. Like it was just like the audacity to think you could get away with something like that in the era of the internet, especially from like any candidate under the age of 70 should know better.
Doc, also, there's a video of him talking to racist Tea Partiers that has recently come out. We will talk about that on another show. But yeah, Glenn Greenwald. Glenn Greenwald went on a pro Lula? Pro Bolsonaro. It was pro Bolsonaro.
Yeah, it was a pro Bolsonaro podcast, and the specific context was he was going to be interviewed by somebody who had...
By a right-winger
who recently called for his family to be separated from him because... apparently he works too much as a journalist or some nonsense.
No, it's because Glenn is gay.
Well, it is because he's gay.
It's because
he's gay and he works too much. That's basically what it is.
So for those who did not see the video, look, me and Glenn Greenwald, I've criticized Glenn Greenwald because I think he goes on Tucker Carlson's show and he is used as a weapon to bash the left on unnecessary reasons. But you cannot say Glenn Greenwald is not one of the best journalists in the world. The man is doing God's work. The dude is amazing. I back Glenn Greenwald 100%, even though I don't agree with him 100% of the time on a lot of his takes. But Doc, you can't say that he ain't about that life. Like, he is the type of journalism Glenn Greenwald does is what is the reason why we are able to do what we do.
A lot of us, we'll talk crap about Donald Trump, but we don't literally have Donald Trump being like, Andy Argo and Lawrence Calvert, such losers.
Right,
I wish somebody threw a brick at him.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, so what happened was he went on this pro right wing news station down south. And while he was getting into a literal shouting and arguing match with this dude that was right next to him while he was talking on the radio, the dude tried to swing at him. And I don't know, like Glenn, like the dude did muff him. He muffed him. Like he did get a lick in. It's like he muffed him. And I'm sitting here like, Glenn's a better dude than I am. Because there's no way in the world that I'm on the radio, you gonna swing on me? Dog. It's going like not only are you getting stomped out on live TV, I'm gonna stomp you out and then take your mic and tell the people what happened. I'm gonna narrate it while it's happening. I'm gonna give you the whooping that your parents used to give you, you know, when you would get in trouble. Oh, yeah. like didn't I tell you? Yeah, it's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be one.
So we're about at that time. I want to wrap up. I had like kind of one final quick hit of my own, and I'm just gonna try to summarize as quick as I can. But I think there's been a lot of discussion. There's been revolution solutions have been popping up all over the world. You're just talking about Bolivia, Venezuela. We're talking about the protests in Chile, Lebanon. What's going on in China? In China. Let's say, by the way, the whole Hong Kong thing is a bit of a longer discussion. I know a lot of like communist-leaning lefties who are all like, I don't know, I don't like Hong Kong, and a lot of the younger folks there have kind of a right-wing. Again, we could spend like half an hour talking about that. You know what? Basically, what I go to, I think some of the politics of the protesters are problematic, but at the same time, it's like I feel like it's like I'm like in some like ancient dojo or something. I gotta remind people. It's like, remember one of the first lessons that you learned. It's like, what is that? And then just you hear an NWA song, "F the Police." You know, just anyway. But I wanted to talk about, why isn't that kind of resistance popping off at a larger degree here in the United States? And granted, we've had large grassroots movements, Black Lives Matter, Standing Rock, but why haven't we seen, a vast uprising like we've seen in some of these other places? There's this great article on Code Pink. I recommend everybody read it. It says, why aren't Americans rising up like we are seeing across the planet? I'm just going to read, a quick paragraph or two from it. The closed media system that we criticize on our show constantly wraps the public in a cocoon of myths, euphemisms, and propaganda to leave us exceptionally ignorant about our own country and the world we live in. Reporters Without Borders ranks the U.S. 48th out of 180 countries on its Press Freedom Index, once again making the U.S. an exceptional outlier among wealthy countries. Add to this the endless distractions of Hollywood, video games, sports, and consumerism, and the exhaustion that comes with working several jobs to make ends meet. The resulting political passivity of Americans is not some strange accident of American culture, but the intended product of a mutually reinforcing web of economic, political, and media systems that keep the American public confused, distracted, and convinced of our own powerlessness. I don't know, Lawrence, anything to add to that before we close out the show?
Nah, man.
I think that gets to it. But again, that's codepink.org. Why aren't Americans rising up like we're seeing across the planet? And I think with that, let's go ahead and close it out. We're already kind of 3 minutes over. Y'all have been listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.